Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Can I just remind attendees this evening about Council's governance rules to make council meetings a safe place for everyone. During the council meeting, members of the public cannot address the meeting outside of public question time, must not interject or act offensively, must remain seated, must switch their mobile phones to mute, must not operate any recording device, audio or visual, without obtaining the consent from the CEO at least 3 days prior to the council meeting, and can display placards or posters provided they're not offensive, do not obstruct entrances and exits to the chamber or impede any view or person. The Chair can direct any member of the public to stop interjecting or acting offensively. If that behaviour continues, the Chair can ask an authorised officer or a member of Victoria Police to remove members of the public from the chamber. The meeting will start shortly.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Council meeting Monday, the 11th of December 2023, our final one for the year. Item 1.2, attendance. Apologies, please, Ms Weatherall.
Thank you, Mayor. We have apologies this evening from Councillor Loitron and Councillor Sean O'Reilly, and I just want to bring to the attention of councillors that we have Councillor Sophie Tran online.
Thank you, Ms Weatherall. 1.3, acknowledgement of traditional custodians of the land. Those in the chamber may stand for this item. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, the Bunurong people, and pay respect to their elders past and present. We recognise and respect their continuing connections to climate, culture, country and waters. And we also pay our respect and acknowledge all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples and their elders present here today and acknowledging their journey. Thank you. Item 1.4, offering of prayer, reflection or affirmation. As part of Council's commitment of recognising the cultural and spiritual diversity of our community, the prayer this evening will be read by Councillor Milkovich, who was kind enough to do that for us. So could we all please stand?
Dear Lord, bless our universal humanity so that our children can grow and interact in peace, live, prosper and grow strong, as did our ancestors. We share a smaller world now and we need each other so that we can live in security and peace most of the time. We must bless each other as we bless ourselves. Amen.
Thank you. Item 1.5, confirmation of minutes of previous meetings. Can I have a mover? Thank you. Councillor Lim, seconded by Councillor Mametti. Item 1.6, disclosures of interest. Ms Weatherall, are there any disclosures of interest?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I have one disclosure of interest from Councillor Mametti in relation to item 4.1.1 in regards to the mid-year budget review. He has an indirect material conflict of interest of a non-pecuniary nature.
Thank you, Ms Weatherall. Item 2, Officers' Reports, Part 1, 2.1, Documents for Sealing. 2.1.1, Documents for Sealing. Can I have a mover, please? Thank you, Councillor Lim. Seconder?
I'll second.
Thank you, Councillor Dark. The item, are there any questions? Is there an opposition? The item is carried. Item 2.2, Statutory Planning Applications. 2.2.1, Town Planning Application number 13/410 to 418 Princess Highway, Noble Park. Planning Application number PLN 22/0532. Is there a mover, please? Thank you, Councillor Dark. Seconder? Thank you, Councillor Milkovich. Are there any questions? Is there any opposition? The item is carried. Item 3, public question time. Ms Weatherall.
Thank you, Mayor. I first would like to call Dominic Bakari to the microphone, who has a couple of questions to ask this evening.
Good evening. My first question is, from the 1st of July to the 2nd from the 1st of July to the 2nd of October this year, the Dandenong City Council spent $18,392 for Aboriginal custodian traditional ceremonies, while our footpaths and parks maintenance programs look non-existent. My question tonight is, what process is required by Council to review the traditional ceremonies and cap the amount of ceremonies to 12 per financial year, and redirect the excessive funds used to maintain our footpaths and parks? If not, why not?
Thank you, Mr Bakari. I'll ask Ms Gillies to respond if she could, please. Thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Mr Bakari, for your question. So we've recently published all of the ceremonies, the ones you referenced. We certainly go through a process in terms of council's major events. So for any council approves major events that happen through the year, and they do have, we do prioritise those. There are a number of other events and activities that we do them for, and often they're in relation to obligations for us under state funding. So for example, if we receive funding from the Victorian government for really any infrastructure upgrade, one or new pavilion or any infrastructure, it is a requirement of those funding agreements that we actually do provide those ceremonies. So there's a mix of both. Certainly for those outside of our major events that occur, they are often linked to grant funding and or state government funding for infrastructure. Certainly as part of our continuous improvement moving forward, we will continue to review our major events to ensure that they are appropriate ceremonies in accordance with our Reconciliation Action Plan.
Okay. Is there a possibility of receiving a breakdown of which functions were government funded and which are funded by our council?
Thanks, Ms Gillies, if you wouldn't mind.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, we actually did include that on the list that was published a fortnight ago, is my understanding, so I can certainly double check that. But the intention was that we would actually highlight those with an asterisk or similar so that you could actually see which ones were as part of a grant funding condition.
Okay, thank you. Okay. My second question tonight is, can council please provide us, the ratepayers, a clear breakdown surrounding all council's expense claims for the previous 3 years?
Thank you, Mr Bakari. I'll get Ms Weatherall to respond, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for that question. All councillor expenses are clearly provided on the website, although I do note that you think it could be more user-friendly, so we'll review how it's presented at the moment. But I can also assure you that it is also provided to the Audit and Risk Committee as well. So happy to provide you a copy of that information.
Thank you. At the last public council meeting dated the 27th of November, a councillor within this chamber made a statement regarding the withdrawal of the councillor's nomination as Deputy Mayor. The content of that councillor's statement made media headlines, as we all aware, surrounding the reasons why that councillor chose to withdraw that person's nomination. My question tonight is, on this serious matter, is our councillors who have been elected by their constituents really representing the ratepayers, or are they representing their political parties? As a ratepayer of the City of Greater Dandenong, this matter needs to be addressed urgently, and if councillors choose their political parties before the constituents, the council governance needs to be engaged with the code of conduct for these breaches. We cannot accept this.
Ms Weatherall, if you could respond, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, I'll need to take that on notice and get some legal advice, but I would also encourage residents, if you do have concerns about code of conduct of councillors, that you can always contact the Local Government Inspectorate, and Mr Bakari, I will provide you a copy of those details so you can refer your concerns through to them directly as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. Our next question is from Philip Lamaro, but I can't see Mr Lamaro in the crowd today. So if he's not here, I'll read it out for him. And it concerns Marriage Equality Vote 2017. In 2023, Greater Dandenong Council have voted to support both the Voice referendum and to support a ceasefire in Palestine. In 2017, Council did not support the Marriage Equality Vote, and not a single councillor asked for a vote to endorse marriage equality. Currently, 5 of the councillors from 2017 are still councillors, namely Councillor Jim Mametti, Councillor Angela Long, Councillor Tim Dark, Councillor Lloyd Trong and Councillor Sean O'Reilly. These councillors decided they did not support equality enough to raise a vote to endorse marriage equality. Dandenong Council refused to endorse marriage equality, and as a result it was one of only 2 Melbourne councils that voted no to equality. How can Greater Dandenong Council and councillors claim to be inclusive when it refused to support equality? And thank you for your question, Philip. Council officers cannot speak on behalf of council and councillors. However, the position of council is not a representation of individual councillors and their views. When council resolves to endorse a position, It does not mean that each councillor individually supports that decision. In December 2019, Council endorsed a report to continue improving the inclusion of, recognition of and community understanding of the LGBTIQ community in Greater Dandenong. The City of Greater Dandenong is working towards improving inclusion of, recognition and community understanding of our lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, gender diverse, intersex, queer, asexual and questioning LGBTIQA+ residents and visitors. Our aim is to strengthen the participation of everyone in Dandenong, regardless of sexual orientation or gender identity. The Diversity, Access and Equity Policy formalises Council's acknowledgement and respect for the diversity of backgrounds, abilities, values, beliefs and lifestyles of all residents. In addition to Council actively including and consulting with the LGBTIQA+ community as part of our libraries, arts, culture, youth, family and age services, sports and recreation and events program, Council is a member of the LG Pro, LGBTIQA+ Special Interest Group, which is a statewide network made up of LGBTIQA+ officers from a range of different councils. Mr Lamaro also asked a question on Dandenong Oasis pool access and another question on LGBTIQA+ attended events. However, these questions were deemed as not permitted under Council's governance rules and will not be asked or read tonight. Our next question is from Isabella Doe of Springvale and concerns extreme weather events. At the Council meeting on the 23rd of October 2023, it seemed clear that there was no specific City of Dandenong plan that had been developed to deal with the increased number of extreme weather events expected from climate change. There is only the State Emergency Management Plan and Extreme Heat Sub-Plan from Emergency Management Victoria and a generic Greater Dandenong Municipal Emergency Management Plan, none focused on local climate adaptation response. I have been a member of Victoria State Emergency Services, Vic SES, since 2018. And I've noticed an increase in extreme weather events over the past few years that have severely impacted not only us but surrounding areas. Will a specific new plan be developed for CGD to consider these extreme weather events like heat waves and heavy storms and how to deal with this as a community proactively and not just from an emergency management but climate adaptation perspective, both preparing for these events, during when the event hits us, and aftermath recovery, and including the social and public health policy perspectives with costings of needed preparatory work? If so, when will this happen? And can I ask Ms Gillies to respond, please?
Through you, Madam Mayor, and thank you so much, Isabella, for your question. A report is being tabled tonight responding to preparedness for the impacts of climate-related changes and events, and there will be further discussion on this tonight. We've also provided for the gallery some further information on that. The development of the local emergency management plans is the responsibility of the Municipal Emergency Management Planning Committee. The sub-plan for extreme heat incidents is in final draft, awaiting MEMP-C, sorry I always get that acronym wrong, approval, which is due for May 2024. There is also an updated storm and flood sub-plan, which we're currently awaiting on Vic SES for final approval of. Council officers will continue to engage in consultation and consult with the community to understand and address the needs arising from the expected heat waves and other climate-related events. Further resourcing requirements will be considered, put forward and considered as part of the 24-25 budget process. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Gillies. Our next question is from Isabella Doe of Springvale, concerns Sustainability Advisory Committee. When is the Greater Dandenong Sustainability Advisory Committee accepting applications for new members? From my understanding, the terms of reference indicate it should be occurring around now, but I've not seen or heard anything about it yet. It would be great to get further clarification on this. Can I ask Mr Bosman, Interim Executive Director, City Futures, to respond, please?
Thank you, Ms Weatherall, and through yourself, Madam Mayor. Thank you for the question, Isabella. The terms of all existing members of the Sustainability Advisory Committee have recently ended, and as such, officers are now reviewing the committee and its terms of reference. And once this is completed, officers will then be able to advise on the future direction of the committee and the potential recruitment of new numbers. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thanks, Mr Bosman.
And Mayor, the last question from Isabella Doe today concerns tree protection local law. It's been approximately 5 months since Council voted to introduce a tree protection local law, which is fantastic in its own right. Mr Bosman, Interim Executive Director, City Futures, mentioned it should be gazetted by now, second week in November, but I've yet to see this. Could I ask Ms Gillies to respond, please?
Through you, Madam Mayor, and thank you again, Isabella, for your question. We're very pleased that tonight agenda item 4.3.7 speaks to this. The legal certification of the local law has now been, and associated documents has now been received. It's being tabled tonight for endorsement, and once that occurs, a local law can be gazetted the following day. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms Gillies.
Thank you. And our next question is from Mr Matthew Kerwin of Noble Park and concerns the National Inclusion Index. In the 2023 National Inclusion Index, Greater Dandenong was found to be the most digitally excluded local government area in Melbourne. Significantly, it is getting further behind the rest of Australia, with its index score only moving less than 2 points, 68 to 69.8 between 2020 and 2023, whereas the national average score moved over 5 points from 67.5 to 73.2 in that time. In particular, neighbouring City of Casey moved over 5 points in that time, possibly at least partly through the investment they've made in digital inclusion over the last 3 years through the implementation of the Casey Digital Equity Framework. I note that the current restructure has a new executive manager position of digital technology, as I expect that will mean a greater digitisation of Greater Dandenong services. What does Council plan to do to make sure its high number of digitally excluded residents are not left behind? Mr Kerwin, what a great question. Council understands the importance of digital inclusion to enable individuals and communities to participate fully in the digital world, support participation in community life and promote equity in economic and social development. To that end, through Council's extensive accessibility community infrastructure and services, we facilitate public access points locally to make digital facilities available for all and offer digital literacy training, collaborate with community organisations to build digital capacity in the community, and we make our information available online and for the range of different accessibility needs. Digital inclusion and equity and technology across the community will continue to be a high priority for the City of Greater Dandenong. But I can also urge you, Mr Kerwin, that in this first tranche of work and investment that we're having in regards to digital, it actually is much more concerned with cyber security for our current databases, which include our property and rating systems, finance systems and other databases, and is less about having any major changes with the community. So take on board his comments, and we look forward to being more digitally enhanced in the future. Next question. Sorry, Mayor. Mr Kerwin, and it concerns Railway Parade in Noble Park. I was reminded this morning as 2 speeding cars passed me in Railway Parade Noble Park to ask when are the local traffic management calming measures going to be implemented in Railway Parade. When I last asked 6 months ago, the expected start date was in December 2023. This project has been 5 years in the development and is sorely needed with so much pedestrian activity in the area, being near the Yarraman Railway Station and Railway Parade shops. Can I ask our Interim Chief Engineer, Mr Krasovsky, to respond, please?
Thank you, and through the Mayor. Thank you for your question, Matthew, and I apologise for the delays in delivering these much-desired road safety improvements along Railway Parade. Council are currently finalising some design issues which require third-party utility approvals and are taking longer than originally anticipated to receive. However, we remain confident these approvals are not too far off, which will allow us to complete construction in the first half of 2024.
Thank you. And Kim Handley has a question now for Palm Plaza in Dandenong. Palm Plaza Walkway was opened in April 1991 and sadly has not aged well, with Council recommending the area for capital works improvements. This is a central area of Dandenong and is where the War Memorial is. In April 2026, this area will have its 35-year anniversary. Would Council and councillors consider rejuvenating this area and renaming it in memory of the soldiers that fought and died for our country for its 35th anniversary in 2026? Can I ask our Interim Chief Engineer, Mr Krasovsky, to respond, please?
Again, thank you. Through the Mayor. Thank you, Kim, for your question. Council's Capital Works program is currently focusing on major projects including the Dandenong Wellbeing Centre and the Dandenong Community Hub. It is therefore likely that the earliest funding would be available to commence design for the rejuvenation of Palm Plaza would be around 2030. This is subject to a current review of Capital Works program to be completed in mid-2024, as mentioned in response to your question on this topic at the last Council meeting. Council does not have any current plans to rename Palm Plaza. The opportunity to rename Palm Plaza could be explored as part of the community engagement process for the future redesign of Moore. Thank you.
Thank you. And our next question is from Tina Kongs of Dandenong, concerns Dandenong Community Hub. When will the co-design methodology for finalising of the concept design of the Dandenong Community Hub be put on the Greater Dandenong Council website? And yes, I am specifically asking about the co-design methodology, not when the workshops will be held. Can I ask Ms Gillies to respond, please?
Through you, Madam Mayor, and thanks so much, Tina, for your question. We have now published on our website, I know you weren't asking for the dates, but we have now published those dates on our website, as well as information about the purpose and intent of each one of the sessions. The methodology that we will be using is very much around co-design. So we have already been through a process with Dandenong Hub that got us to a point of a community-preferred concept design. Feedback was received from the community in terms of subsequent changes that would be required. The architect has now finished their work in relation to building those preferred amendments into the concept design, and it is that we will be bringing back to that first workshop session, with a view that we want to talk through and consult with those that are participating in that session in relation to what we can't do due to statutory obligations. So, for example, building requirements, some of the things we can't do. And then the things that we can do, certainly, but may have unintended operational consequences. So, for example, if the preference from the community has been for a larger playground, and the unintended consequence of that might be that we actually need to make another area smaller, we want to be able to work through with the community their preferences and what they would like to see in regards to some of those sorts of changes. So in the sessions coming up in January and February, again, those dates and that information is now published on our web. We will be absolutely working through that in a co-design process, and the second lot of workshops will incorporate the feedback that we again receive and the consultation that we work through in January, so that we can come back to Council with the final drafts at the end of February. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms Gillies.
Thank you. And our next question is from Tina Kongs of Dandenong, concerns Webster Street, Dandenong. Can the Council advocacy submission to the Webster Street, Dandenong level crossing removal project public consultation please be put on the Council website? If the Council did not make a submission in this phase, could the Council's general advocacy position regarding the project please be put on the web? Can I ask our Chief Engineer, Mr Krasovsky, to respond, please?
Through the Mayor, thank you for your question and interest in the significant project. I'm pleased to advise Council is currently finalising its submission. Further, this Council officers will ensure a summary of the key points provided in the submission will be placed on Council's website.
Thank you. And our next question is from Gay Guest of Dandenong and concerns heatwave incident notifications. In a heatwave event, will 2 emergency response centres be enough? Who will staff them and how will residents be contacted to know they're open? Given that at the weekend a social media post about an event being cancelled due to inclement weather couldn't be posted because the right contact person wasn't known, it's interesting to read about animals and livestock being catered for at these 2 venues, yet there are no specific details as to how this will occur. Communication will need to be crystal clear and cater for all those with only landlines, those with only mobiles, those with both, those not connected to social media or radio announcement, those with no family or friends, etc. Have all these scenarios been detailed anywhere that we can read and feel confident at some safe places will now be close to a month to at least 15th of January? Can I ask Ms Gillies to respond, please?
Through you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Gay. Nice to see you. I won't repeat the component that I mentioned earlier in terms of the MEMP and the SEMP and the work that's going on there for approval in May next year. What I do want to outline, though, is that in the SEM, local governments are the leading agency to provide local emergency relief and recovery coordination for the community. This, though, is typically done in consultation with Victoria Police, the Department of Families, Fairness and Housing, and other local emergency support providers like the Salvation Army and Red Cross. In relation to the two facilities, they're the two facilities that we have detailed activation plans for, ready to go, which include who makes the decision to activate those facilities, how that's communicated to the community. And we're also working with, it's not just through social media, for example, that we would communicate. We're also working with community groups to help inform them so that they can then speak to their members, for example, and make sure that different cohorts of the community receive the information, as well as social media. Obviously, we also have a vulnerable persons call list, so that responds to where people might not have family members or friends or neighbours that can support them. People can register on that call list and they'll receive those phone calls to their landlines. We also work with the Red Cross, provide a great service all year round, but it certainly also ramps up through emergencies, and that's the Telecross program where people can register to receive regular phone calls, and that's to check in on wellbeing all through the year, not just during emergency. So certainly encourage, if you know anyone that would value from that sort of a calling service, please encourage them to sign up for that. We did include a list of all of our council facilities, but as I mentioned, the two that are specific in that report are the ones that are ready to go. Those venues have been used for various exercises over the years, so there's certainly been some training, and we certainly have a team of staff that would help respond in those scenarios. Arrangements for other cool spaces, so we've got that list there of any of our other facilities, that would be enacted under the direction of the controlling group. So, that would be, again, in consultation with those agencies that I mentioned earlier, and we certainly could stand up those buildings. We just need to prioritise the ones where we've made the most investment and we believe we have the greatest capacity. So there's certainly capacity there, and we will continue to review that and make sure that it's clear and that our community can have the information that it needs as it needs it. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms Gillies. Thank you, Ms Weatherall. Item 4, Officers' Reports, Part 2. 4.1, Finance and Budget. 4.1.1, Mid-Year Budget Review 2023-2024.
I'd like to move that I have an indirect material conflict of interest of a non-procuring nature. I declare the nature of my interests as follows. A relative is a member of the board for Dandenong Thunder who is based at George Andrews Reserve.
Thank you, Councillor Mehmeti. We'll just wait for him to leave the chambers. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Garrard. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Long. Are there any questions? Yes, Councillor Dark.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, my question to the relevant director has to do with, I suppose, the current rate financial position of the council, particularly to do with rate arrears. There's been a lot of media coverage with neighbouring councils, particularly the growth corridors. I believe it was Hume, Cardinia, and there was a third as well, and that the three councils had amassed a cumulative total of about $500 million in rate arrears. My question is, given that the state government has changed the legislative framework regarding the collection of arrears, where currently the City of Great Dandenong is sitting in terms of the total outstanding rates owed to the council, and then how we're seeing that trend as well.
Thank you, Councillor Dark. We'll ask Ms Hanson to respond, if she could, please.
Through you, Madam Mayor. So thanks, Councillor Dark, for the question. So it is a good question. So council's annual rates are published annually, and council's outstanding rates, are published annually in our annual report. So at 30th of June, I think I recall it was something around 13 million. So our collection rate has progressively decreased over the last few years, COVID, it's sustained, but in the last probably couple of years, and probably with the current economic downturn, we've seen a drop of we used to collect around 95% of outstanding rates. That's dropped to about 92%. So we've put in a number of strategies at the moment to reach out to ratepayers, including the new payable platform, to ease the burden and the payment of arrears. The ministerial guidelines relating to the rating reforms have yet to be finalised, so they were put out for consultation, which ended in September, and we understand that they were actually going to go back and be finally endorsed, but they haven't. So whatever the impacts out of that will feed back into our update of our financial hardship policy, which will come back to Council.
Thanks, Ms Hanson. Does another question?
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, is it possible to write a letter to the Minister to find out how we're tracking in terms of when they're expecting this law to come forward? Obviously, I'm just concerned, given the financial climate that we are all facing at the moment, that there's a significant amount of arrears that are owed to this council, and without having the guidelines and what feedback is supposed to be coming forward, we're sort of flying blind. If we could please follow that up.
Sure, we'll compose something and send that out. Thanks, Councillor Dark. Any further questions? Is there any opposition? As there is no opposition, the item is carried. Yes, Councillor Garrard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to compliment our Financial Officer, Ms Hanson, for bringing in a surplus in these difficult times. A healthy surplus in the mid-year budget is very welcome, and we're seeing that will be put to prop up major projects, and that is a very promising sign given the financial times that we're in, and to be able to deliver on our major projects because of this surplus is also very pleasing to observe. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Garrard. Could we ask Councillor Mehmedi to come back in, please? Thank you. Item 4.2, Policy and Strategy. 4.2.1, Community Funding Program and Policy Review. Do I have a mover, please? Councillor Garrard. Can I get a seconder? Councillor Mehmedi. Are there any questions? Is there any opposition? The item is carried. Councillor Garrard.
Madam Mayor, I just want to thank also the officers. This review has really been 2 years in the making, and there's been many adjustments and iterations and consultations, and now we have come to a very robust process that I think is very fair and equitable and very transparent. So I thank the officers that have developed this new policy, and I think it augurs well to ensure that those most in need do get the financial assistance they require. So thank you.
Item 4.3, Other. 4.3.1, List of registered correspondence to mayors and councillors. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Mehmedi. Seconder? Thank you, Deputy Mayor Lim. Are there any questions? Councillor Garrard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My first question is regarding correspondence from the Boroondara Council regarding a statement, housing statement put out by the council. My question is, are we going to put out a statement on the housing, the state government's housing statement, in outlining the number of difficulties and challenges that presents, and the number of areas that are likely not to deliver on the ambition of that policy?
Can I get Mr Bossman to respond, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through yourself, Councillor, we already have on our website a statement. You'd refer to the Boroondara one, which is a far lengthier statement, but it tends to compress the issues of housing, the Sandon report, a number of the planning issues. It goes into issues that are somewhat related but not the same topic. When you distill the document down to its core elements, the information that we put on our website is not dissimilar. The statement by Burundara also ends off with saying they look forward to the opportunity of working with the state government in developing further responses and input into housing and into the other functions such as changes to planning, and so do we. So as we go forward and as there are further opportunities and as there is engagement by the state government on the matters of housing, on the matters of planning reform, etc., we will make sure that, just as Burundara will and the other councils, we will be part of those engagement processes and we will develop more detailed responses as those opportunities come forward.
Thank you, Mr Bosman. Are there any other further questions? Is there any opposition? As there is no opposition, the item is carried. Item 4.3.2, report on matters discussed at council briefing sessions and pre-council meetings. Do I have a mover? Councillor Garrard. Seconder? Thank you, Councillor Dark. Are there any questions? Is there any opposition? The item is carried. Item 4.3.3, draft minutes of Cultural Heritage Advisory Committee meeting 21st of September 2023. Can I get a mover, please? Councillor Garrard. Can I get a seconder, please? Can I get a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Long. Are there any questions? Is there any opposition? The item is carried. Item 4.3.4, draft minutes of Cultural Heritage Advisory Committee meeting 2nd of November 2023. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Garrard. It's Councillor Garrard show tonight. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Long. Are there any questions? Is there any opposition? The item is carried. Thank you. 4.3.5. Yes. Councillor Garrard. Once again. Well, just one moment. Item 4.3.5, response to notice of motion 31, preparedness of impacts of climate-related events in summer 2023-2024. Councillor Garrard.
I wish to put up an alternate.
Sure, what's your alternate, please?
You want a seconder?
Yes, please. Thank you. Are there any questions to the alternate? Is there any opposition? No? It's carried. Thank you. Councillor Garrard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to speak to the alternate. The report that was put up in response to my notice of motion regarding preparedness for impact of climate-related events in summer was not fully covered by the officer report. In fact, the officer report only responded to the first two items, A and B, and did not respond to C, D, E, F, G and points 1 and 2. So in consultation with the CEO, who was in agreement, and also the officer, the relevant officer, I have outlined in my alternate motion that further work is required and that the CEO has and the officer has shown their willingness to continue that work. And so the alternate outlines the areas that were not addressed in the report.
Thank you, Councillor Garrard. Item 4.3.6, advanced waste processing. Can I have a mover, please? Can I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Garrard. Can I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Dark. Are there any questions? Councillor Garrard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Could I ask the relevant officer, there appears to be 3 areas not covered in this scope for the council to look at waste alternatives. Those 3 areas are around the council's position regarding its shareholder status in the consortium, the South East Waste Consortium, and what obligations that are placed on council in relation to that ongoing shareholder status. The second area not covered is that the range of options, so you talk about advanced waste solutions, and you have defined that broadly as covering a number of options. However, can the officer talk to whether they will be looking at councils who have alternate approaches rather than burning rubbish, but actually have a range of solutions, some of which are outlined in the DIS report? And so will the officers be actively visiting those facilities to look at a wide selection of alternates that are consistent with the circular economy of the state government? The third point is around the $6 million fund that has been siphoned off waste over a period of time that was meant to be dedicated to funding an alternate waste facility, and yet the state government appear to be very reluctant to talk about that fund and have yet refused to engage with councils regarding the spending of that money on a waste facility for the South East, because it is inappropriate for a council to be building infrastructure of this size and to be taking on the financial and infrastructure responsibilities that are required of a dedicated waste facility. So can the officer talk to those 3 points, please?
Thank you, Councillor Garrard. Mr Bosman, if you wouldn't mind, please.
Madam Mayor, thank you through yourself, and thanks for this opportunity, Councillor Garrard, because the issues, all of those issues that you raise, have to be investigated, and all those questions do certainly need to be answered. This particular report that comes before you tonight effectively closes off by asking Council to endorse that officers explore alternatives, do comprehensive assessments of, amongst others, AWT or Advanced Waste Technology options, that we recommend a transition pathway, and that it is appropriate for Council to actively explore all alternatives. So looking at the 3 questions that you've asked, will we be looking at a range of options that other councils use, actively going out and looking at it, or in terms of the circular economy, etc.? The answer is absolutely yes. We're going to look at everything. We've got a tight time frame. We've got to be up and running 5 years from now to make sure that we are avoiding landfill. So all options are going to be explored, and that's the subsequent report that I'll bring back to Council with what we found, what were the pros, what were the cons, what were the health risks, financial risks, social risks, etc. So there will be quite a lot of option testing there. With regard to the obligations, share obligations, again, the paper the report back will identify the role that we play and where we sit within the role of that consortium, and to what extent it ties us in or not. So that is something that has to be also addressed, whether we have an opt-out option or to the extent that we are, as I say, tied in going forward. I don't believe we will be, but I think it's a question that has to be publicly answered. And then the state levy, it's almost iniquitous that the state levy has grown and grown and grown and nothing ever comes out of it. Certainly, whatever the preferred option is that comes out of the recommendations from the next report coming up that I'm looking at bringing early next year, whatever option we finally settle on as a council, we have to strongly advocate, we've got to strongly push state government to let go of some of that money the purpose for which it has been collected is to fund projects in which we deal with these waste issues. To expect the council to do so out of its own purse while it's collected money for this purpose, as I say, in my view, is iniquitous, and we shall certainly have a strong advocacy program to try and get access to funding from that fund. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Bosman. Are there any further questions? Any opposition? The item is carried. Thank you. Item 4.3.7, tree protection on private land, local law. Do I have a mover, please? Councillor Garrard. Seconder? Is there a seconder? Councillor Long. Are there any questions? Is there any opposition?
I indicate opposition.
Thank you, Councillor Dark. Councillor Garrard, as the mover, you have 5 minutes, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So, approximately 5 months ago, we had people gather here for the momentous occasion of passing the law to protect trees on private land, which we know is critically important. We know that in the city of Greater Dandenong, we have less than 8% tree canopy cover, and we know that we are losing more trees than we are planting. And we know that we cannot improve or go forward with canopy cover unless we protect trees on private land. I don't need to go into the myriad of reasons why trees are important. I think that's self-evident. We're going into the hottest summer we have ever experienced, and the next summer will be hotter again, and the next summer will be hotter again. And so the science is very clear that we are at increased risk of heat stress in particular, and trees are the solution to heat stress, to heat islands. There's a myriad of other health benefits that trees provide, and so it is self-evident that it is important to protect trees, and therefore it is important that we finally get this tree law functioning. This item is merely an administrative item. It is merely saying that the law has been through a legal process, an exhibition process, and now has been certified. And that following this, the successful passing of this item, it can be gazetted and can be brought into effect almost immediately. So there is nothing new or different about this law than when it was passed almost unanimously last time. And therefore, let's just get on with it. Let's finally bring in this law, and let's finally stop being ashamed of our tree canopy cover going backwards, less than 8%, going to the city 65%. That is the contrast. And so this is a no-brainer, and I really urge my councillors to support, as they did previously, the bringing in of this local law.
Thank you, Ms. Councillor Garrard. Councillor Long as the seconder.
I don't have much to add, but tree coverage will cool the land, and hopefully that we can get this law through, that we can protect major trees on private property. Hopefully people will plant more trees on their property to protect not only themselves but other people. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Long. Councillor Dark in opposition. You have 4 minutes.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, I rise to oppose this item, and I have consistently during the whole time this has been up, because a core belief that I have is a person's right to their private property and their right to enjoy that private property however they see fit. And it is one of the core beliefs that I've had the whole time, along with cutting red tape and cutting back the amount of green tape as well that seems to be covering within the local government sector. I have had, as what Councillor Garrard had just mentioned before, many debates over the time that this period has come, but to be able to get to a point even now to support something like this it goes against the core beliefs that I have on this council. What I do look forward to, and what I think will be very interesting, is to see what the current canopy coverage is within the municipality when the next report comes out. Because what I have seen is, since it's gone out in the community that council's looking at creating this local law, a lot of trees have been felled, a significant amount. And just recently on the weekend, I know in Ordish Road near Mark Anthony Drive, there was about 50 gum trees that were cut down off a person's private property because of the fact that they were worried that this local law was coming into place very, very soon. So I think it's had a counter effect of what has happened in the municipality, in that there now has been a significant amount of trees that have been felled as people have moved quite rapidly. So it will be interesting to see, one, where the current canopy coverage is, and two, how the local law works on private property. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dark. Are there any other speakers in
Yes,
favour
Madam
or
Mayor.
against? Yes,
Yeah, against.
One moment.
Thank you. Same as last time.
Councillor Milkovich.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Councillor Garrett seems to be a bit of a fortune teller lately, because we're 11 days into summer and our gas ducted heater was running full blast on Saturday.
Really?
So this news about hottest summer on record and the next one's going to be even hotter, you must be able to see future like that. So we'll ask you for the next set of TEFLOTA numbers. Maybe that'll help us all avoid all the hassles we have at the moment. However, may I remind the councillors and the residents that the canopy cover might be 9% overall in the city of Greater Dandenong. However, there are parts that are not 9%. Namely, Dandenong Northward, 17% canopy coverage. And that will never be able to enough to make up for the moonscape of the industrial area in Dandenong South, or Keysborough South for that matter. So if we need to reach 15% overall, we need to turn Dandenong North into a rainforest. I don't agree with that. May I also remind councillors and residents who are so vigorously supporting this law that all these trees they actually see in private properties were actually indeed planted by the residents and the homeowners, not by the council. So who gives the council now a right and control over private land, for whatever reason, not to be able to cut the tree down? They don't do it without the reason, contrary to what some residents might think. I've spoken to a great number of my residents in my ward and around the streets where I live. They're all very proud of their backyards, their trees, but they also would like the freedom to be able to cut down the tree if they deem it so necessary. And instead of punishing people constantly and actually imposing the laws and imposing the infringements, how about if we encourage people to do it? Because this law is not going to stop the developers from cutting the trees and developing the land. They're just going to pay the fine, 2, 3, 5 grand, whatever the case might be. We still lose canopy coverage. The people that have actually consistently helped the canopy coverage are now getting disadvantaged. Because to even trim the tree, not cut it down, to even trim the tree, you need a level 3 arborist at a cost of $300 to pensioners who have consistently planted and nurtured trees in their backyards. So to say that this law is going to disadvantage would be an understatement. It is a selfish law. It is been imposed on our residents for no particular reason. And like Councillor Tim Dark said, I will be curious and interested, and maybe Councillor Garrett can actually give us the information right now. She's good at fortune telling what the canopy coverage will be next time that the report comes out, because she can foresee the weather. So I'm hoping she can foresee the canopy coverage. I'd like to take some bets on that. And that's why I'm opposing this particular motion. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Milkovich. Councillor Garrard, as right of reply, please.
I rise again with weariness in my bones to state that a cold day here and there is not an indication of climate trends. Just like the sale of a house, which is exceptionally high, as Councillor Dark and Councillor Maltwick would know, is not an indicator of the price trend of an area. Unfortunately, they do not seem to agree with 99% of scientists around the world who are in furious agreement that we're in trouble, that our climate is in trouble, that our planet is in trouble, and that we are headed for catastrophic heat events in the coming summers and extreme cold events closer to the poles. There is a great deal of evidence and science behind this that Councillor Dark and Milkovich don't appear to be familiar with, and that's okay. That's okay. Because the rest of us are, and the rest of us are very clear about what's happening. And the rest of us make a majority. those of us who understand what is happening, those of us who follow the science, those that understand that scientists are very clear and very certain that climate is altering to an extent that will not allow humans to flourish, and that we will start to see significant impacts, particularly around food security, housing security. We will start to see a tremendous number of climate refugees. We already have seen the Prime Minister of this country provide funds to Pacific nations because the loss of those nations is inevitable. Am I done, or I got a minute? So it's okay that these two gentlemen are not on board. That is their right, and that is a democratic process. But it is so fortunate. It is so fortunate that the majority of people in this room really understand science and are really committed to doing what we can to protect our community and protect our citizens, which is everybody's responsibility. So I thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Garrard. I'll put it to a vote. So all those in favour of the motion? Councillor Garrard. Councillor Long. Is your hand up, Councillor Tan? Yep. Councillor Mamedi. Deputy Mayor Lim and Mayor Councillor Formoso. All those against? Councillor Dark, Councillor Milkovich. That is 6 for and 2 against. The item is carried. Thank you. We'll move on to item 5, notices of motion. As there is no notices of motion, we will go to item 6, report from councillors, delegated members and councillor questions. We'll start off with Councillor Mameti.
Thank you, Mayor. I attended the Victorian Tamil Association yesterday with you. It was great to see 8 schools around Victoria come together and we actually learned about the Tamil culture, the dance and all their traditions, and plenty of colour, might I say, which was a fantastic event held here in Dandenong at the Victorian Tamil Association. I also had the pleasure with yourself and Councillor Lim to attend the Melbourne City, George Street multi-purpose court, cutting of a ribbon. I didn't see a ribbon there, but that's what it was called. And it was actually to Melbourne City has now joined in partnership with the council, and the courts were painted blue and had the Melbourne City logo. And it's good to see that that mini soccer court is actually going to be very useful, and it has been useful for probably about a decade in central Dandenong, where kids can just come on and have a kick around and get out of trouble, I guess. But it was really nice to meet Andrew Naboot, who is an Australian Socceroo, and also who plays for Melbourne City, who was very friendly and chatted to, I think, everybody that was there and took photos. So it was really nice to see Andrew visit Dandenong. Also attended with yourself and Councillor Lim, Coffee with a Cop at Dandenong Square. Everybody's probably looking at me, what's Dandenong Square? Dandenong Square is the new name for Dandenong Plaza, so the name has been changed, so people might start to see it around town. It's called Dandenong Square now. That was always very informative. To have the police to answer questions, also councillors to answer questions that the community might have had. So it was great to see many of our community members come along. Also attended the Monash Children's Hospital fundraiser, hosted by our very own Councillor Lim, who always is very, when he talks about Monash, and especially children in hospital, he does dig deep, and I think he raised over $100,000, so well done and congratulations, Councillor Lim. Not your first time, I know you do it year in, year out, so well done. I also attended the Albanian Independence 111th anniversary in Harmony Square. We had a flag raising and then Albanian music and dance, and it was great to see some of the community come out and celebrate Independence Day in Harmony Square. Also that evening, Madam Mayor, there was a formal dinner at Alencia Receptions, which is in Dandenong, to to celebrate the 111th anniversary, and our special guest was the Albanian ambassador to Canberra, Australia, Mr. Adrian Mara. I also attended the Australian International Aid supporting humanitarian aid in Gaza, which was in Dandenong at Balkans Corner. There was approximately about 250 people at that event, and $650,000 were raised just in about 2 hours for humanitarian aid in Gaza. Madam Mayor, I also attended the Mazar Greenhouse with Councillor Lim. We both cut the ribbon, and this new restaurant was born in Langlawn Street. It's very similar to Afghani Persian food, so if anybody's going down Langlawn Street, I recommend Mazar Greenhouse. Some of the questions I have, Madam Mayor, is while we were at the Victorian Tamil Association last night, Queen Street and Balmoral Avenue off Princess Highway, I was shocked. There was about 8 cars I counted. Some had number plates, some didn't. They were actually a wreck. They've been sitting there. There was actually a mattress under one of the vehicles there, and it looks like they haven't been moved for many, many months. I'd just like to raise the attention to council officers, if they can please go look around, and Queen Street and Balmoral Avenue in Dandenong. I don't need an answer at the moment, but yeah, please, I'm raising it. We have had many people or business owners complaining over the last few months that there's a lot of vehicles on our roads, and I think this is, I normally don't drive down Queen Street and Balmoral. It's a side street, so maybe we've missed it, I don't know, but yeah, there's at least 8 cars that need to be moved from that location. I also had a phone call from one of the residents today regarding Rodina Terrace. Rodina Terrace in Dandenong South is part of the new estate down there off Kirkham Road. There is actually no footpath in this area. It was a great idea from the Victorian government probably about 10 or 15 years ago. Everybody I speak to today absolutely hate it. To have a street with no footpath where children can walk, they have to walk on the road, and this resident told me his kids are probably nearly close to getting run over at least once a week, and cars speed there. So this Rodina Terrace is designed for pedestrians to walk on and also cars to drive on. Can we please have a look at those estates around that area, especially Rodina Terrace?
Thank you, Councillor Mehmeti. Mr Brashotsky, could you please respond?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Mehmeti, definitely with Rodina Terrace. This has been a subject that's been raised with Council many times before, and many traffic investigations have already occurred down there. If there's something specifically new that they would like to raise or you'd like to bring to our attention, we're happy to look at that. However, all the previous data and research that we've undertaken down there, remember this area was designed purposely to be a slow-speed environment with no footpaths and a shared space for all road users. If there's something that's new, that's unique, that's appeared that we haven't been tracking, please let us know and we can definitely look at that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll pass on the phone number of the resident. He was absolutely really upset, and I'm not sure, maybe he wants speed humps, maybe he just wants vehicles to drive slower when there's people also on the road where there's no footpaths. I know Council can't do anything about it because we've raised these kind of questions before, and our answers are we're stuck with it, and it's just a very terrible setup, and I've never seen it anywhere else in the state. To me, I think they actually try to get more land to sell and eliminate the footpaths. But anyway, that's for another story to be told at another time. Madam Mayor, I had very concerned with a fire, and unfortunately somebody lost their life in Dandenong South only a few days ago, so our thoughts and prayers go out to his family or her family. I'm not sure whether it's a male or female. But my biggest concern was the toxic fumes and smoke that affected people in our community. People were told to close their windows and stop and don't go outside. All my neighbours didn't even know. So how this message gets out to our community, this is something that I've been advocating for many years, that our industrial 2 zone, our hazardous waste facilities down there are dangerous to this community. So for how much longer does this community have to suffer before something horrendous happens? And it's just getting worse and worse every time. We've got the hazardous waste facility down in Dandenong South on Taylors Road.
that catches on fires all the time. That's something that this council has gone to court to close down many, many years ago. This is becoming too familiar, too often, and as the residents, I know we've got an EPA meeting for a community information centre on the 16th of December at Springers Leisure Centre. I urge all our community to attend that. But this is just not right. This is not safe for our community. And the houses and the schools are very, very close to these facilities where something disastrous is going to happen. But the problem is we don't find out in 5 or 10 years how it's affected our community. So our community have asked me to stand up and again raise these concerns. And I think we need to take this another step further and probably invite the Minister or even the Premier to Dandenong and actually look at what's happening here and why do our residents have to suffer. So these are really, really concerning our residents, and it's on social media, it's on, everybody's talking about it. I think there's articles in the newspapers. This is very, very real.
Thank you, Councillor Mehmedi. If I could ask Mr. Bosman to respond, please.
Madam Mayor, thank you through yourself. And Councillor Mehmedi and I have got a very long history about the issue of the Industrial 2 Zone. And in fact, Councillor Mehmedi might recall that 12, 15 years ago, we went into the state government with a proposal to have the Industrial 2 Zone de-zoned to Industrial 1, so that it, bearing in mind that its original name, the original purpose of that zone was called the Offensive Industries Zone. It then became Industrial 2, but nonetheless, it's home to the higher impact forms of industry, and that could be paints, it could be anything that is noxious or has a high impact. The state government at the time, Councillor Mehmedi will remember, basically showed us in the door and then turned us around and took us straight back out again. Not interested. There are 2 Industrial 2 zones in the state of Victoria and they're not about to decommission them, was their message. I doubt very much, and we can certainly have another bash at that, Councillor Mehmedi. I'm quite sure that while they might have moved offices, the doors will be opened and closed again just as quickly. But there's no harm in trying. There are a couple of practical problems with that. Let's say that the state government does agree that it now gets de-zoned, I use the word de-zoned, from Industrial 2 to Industrial 1. Those businesses that are already there by virtue of a historic approval may continue to operate. They don't suddenly become illegal businesses. They have existing use rights. The change will happen very gradually over a lengthy period of time. Again, it doesn't mean that we don't advocate for and seek a meeting with the state government, but I think a quick solution is not within sight. But it doesn't mean we don't have another go at it. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Bosman.
Yeah,
Councillor
thank you,
Mehmedi.
Mr. Bosman, and yeah, I understand that it's not a quick fix that we can just relocate them. It needs to be a fix that no new ones come in, and as the older ones close down, they don't get a permit in the future. But thank you for reminding us of the many, many years and challenges we have had. I'm still going to keep on fighting. And our community wants us to keep on fighting. So, and I know you've always been passionate, and we always knock on their door, even though they tell us no, but we'll keep on knocking on their door. Also, Madam Mayor, I don't like raising this, but overgrown grass again. I know it's hot weather one day and it's rainy the next, but can council officers please look at, especially Vivian Street Park. It's where little kids, 5, 6-year-old kids play, and the grass is nearly as high as their shoulders. If we can have a look at that park urgently, please.
Thank you, Councillor Mehmedi. Mr. Prashotsky, if you wouldn't mind responding, please.
Thank you, through the Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Mehmedi. We can definitely arrange for crews to get out there. I hope you also recognise that we have had some great conditions for grass growing, both warm, sunshine and rain, and we are at a peak season dealing with a few issues, trying to maintain and stay on top of it. But we will eventually get on top of it, and we will make sure that we, moving forward, will have better practices in the new year. If you can then also give me the locations again. Sorry, I couldn't hear it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr Bosman, did you want to add to that?
Just want to add to that very quickly, Madam Mayor, that through Mr Pechotsky's offices, we are looking at bringing on, for a period of a couple of months, additional external assistance to help our crews, to help our staff, so that that will assist the staff themselves. That will also get into the community, the levels of service that they're looking for. So that is something that we're looking at the moment, as to how quickly we might be able to augment the work that we're doing with some external assistance.
Yes, thanks, Mr Bosman. I think that's a great idea. I think all of us are in agreement that all of our wards are suffering from overgrown grass. Councillor Mehmeti.
Thank you, Mayor. Finally, like many of us are going to different functions, I was invited to Carols and Curry Night in Holt by the federal member Cassandra Fernando, and all proceeds of that night went to a local charity. In closing, I'd like to wish our community, our staff and everybody associated with the City of Greater Dandenong a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Stay safe, everybody, and I look forward to seeing everybody in the new year.
Thank you, Councillor Mehmeti. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Lim.
Thank you, Mayor. The last fortnight was, I think the first one I was attending with Councillor Jim Mameri about Albanian flag ceremony to celebrate 111th Independence Day. I didn't realize that the Albanian already have 111th. Yeah, very good. Thank you. Very lovely. We enjoy both it. Very enjoy about the dancing actually, and with the ambassador from Canberra as well. On the Thursday, the next day, I thought of attended we call Southeast Business Network with Mayor Lana Formoso, and a great night as well. And plus, great morning actually. No, sorry, not Councillor Formoso. Actually, with Angela Long. That breakfast is very good interaction between business owner and also myself. And also on a Friday, after that, in the morning, I had a chance to attend Summer Read launch with author Gabrielle Wong. She's a great, what we call a great children's laureate. She's also her great grandfather came in about 1850, something like that. And it's a great one that because the student and the teacher were very happy about our council that support this program. And also attend with Councillor Mehmeti as well, that he already mentioned about what we call the Bazaar Greenhouse Restaurant at Langhorne Street. And after that, attend Carol in Harmony Square with our mayor, Formoso. And after that, straight after that, I have to go to the Carol with Nkari, Christmas party, fundraising for local community that organized by Cassandra Fernando, MP for Halls. And Saturday, the following Saturday, I hosted charity dinner, Dance for Monash Children. We have a lot of doctors and nurses, especially. Thank you so much for our Mayor, Lana Formoso. She tried to give her emotional speech to our audience, and everyone were very, emotional and came to me. Thank you for your, expression about, Monash Children's Hospital, and we raised around at this stage, we keep counting, maybe around $150,000 for kids with cancer. And also on Tuesday, the 5th of December, I also had a chance to have a coffee with Mayor and also with Councillor Jim Mameri. By 3 o'clock, I had another chant or so. This is an urgent one with SBS National Radio in Cambodian language. For me to describe what is Monash Health, how their services provide to the Southeast and so on and so on. And after that, and I attended the Community Spirit and Leadership Award for local school students with Julian here in this chamber full of students. It's a great success, and they're really happy to our council, and the most important, they really want to catch up with me after that. And at the end of the day, I'm the last one to leave the chamber because they want to understand how to be successful, how to be local council, how to serve the community, whatever. And I still have a lot of appointments with them, 3 or 4 more. I have to try to make time to meet all those students. And also I have another meeting with business owner. This is probably going on for the last 3 years with business owner in Springvale. The whole point is, for me, this time I had a lot of turn up from business owner to landlord to come to have a meeting just privately, just to teach them about hygiene, about how to take care of themselves, how to look after the business, how to promote each other, because we're about to start to form Springvale Chamber of Commerce. They're very happy with whatever my idea all about. And also, I had a chance to attend Greater Dandenong Chamber of Commerce Networking Night. It's a great one as well. It's also I have a chance to meet a lot of business owners that own factory, those sort of thing. On the following Thursday, I had attending Ubuntu Garden Pavilion ribbon cutting hosted by Afri Oscar, that led by Selva Gondozak Luca. That's a great one that all Melbourne Uni students, all the architect, engineer, those sort of things come along with, and I had a long discussion, probably 1.5 hours with them. And they're going to try to revitalize City of Great Dandenong, the center of Dandenong. And also after that, I had a chance to attend Christmas appreciation dinner with Mayor Lana Formoso as well. It's a great one, a great dancing as well, and that night with all the volunteers. And we encourage them to keep going on for doing the volunteer job, and also ask them to try to recruit more volunteers. Therefore, they can live longer. On Friday, the last day of the week, and attended Melbourne City FC ribbon cutting. That already, Councillor Memeti already mentioned about that. Thanks for that, for all my activity. My question is, this probably happened for the last 3 years. Our elevator at Springvale car park is simply up HP this time of the year, but previous director always said that probably due to humidity. And coincidentally, I already come across myself on that Saturday afternoon with so many other visitors that were complaining about the elevator, and also I myself got a lot of complaints from our visitors as well. Any way that we can look into that elevator very closely to make sure it's no hiccup at all. Sometimes it's not working, for a few minutes, 4 or 5 minutes. We stood in the elevator, they keep press, it's not go up. Previously they said humidity. I don't know what is humidity all about to do with the elevator. Thanks for that.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor Lim. I'll ask Mr Bosman if he wouldn't mind responding, please.
Madam Mayor, thank you for yourself. Councillor, the infrastructure, the repair, the maintenance of infrastructure will fall between Mr Pichotsky and myself, so we'll take that on board. We do know that elevator has been less than completely reliable since it has been installed, but we will follow that up with building maintenance and make sure that everything has been attended to.
Thank you, Mr Bosman.
Thank you.
Deputy
The next one
Mayor
is
Lim.
rubbish bin in our activity center. Like Councillor Sophie Tan complained to me about rubbish bin overflow, especially weekend. Jim Ameti as well. Actually, in front of me, Jim Ameti, he walked with me, just overflow, and every day, especially one of the two rubbish bin, actually multicultural place, and another one in front of what we call Chinese beef stew or whatever. That the one overflow all the time. Anything that we can add more rubbish bin, or we can change our bin completely to a bigger bin. Thanks for that.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. If I could ask Mr Proshotsky to respond, please.
Through the Mayor. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. The issue with the rubbish bins, I note that you've previously raised that with us. We are looking into that. It seems to be an issue with illegal use by traders putting their waste into the public bins, which fills them up very quickly. So there's a multi-pronged approach which we are looking at, which includes not only education of the traders through door knocking, having our officers go out and actually discuss the issues with them, but also we are investigating whether there's an opportunity to provide a few more public bins in prime spots.
Thank you, Mr. Przodski.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Deputy
I
Mayor.
don't mind to go with our council officer to educate them, because I mentioned to all the business owners there from time to time, I say, please try not to throw the rubbish in the bin, try to put in your rubbish bin, and try, at the end of the day, try not to, throw the rubbish on the footpath as well. That make more work for our council officer. I think that's about all from me. Thanks.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Lim. Councillor Tan.
Thank you, Mayor. Firstly, I would like to ask a few questions first. So question one to the relevant officer, just regarding to Noble Park ISL. So they're requesting to do a memorial that will be located at the Noble Park ISL. So I just want to find out what is the process of getting this done. Thank you.
Through you, Mayor.
Thank you.
And thank you, Councillor Tan, for your question. This has actually been asked by others as well. Currently, the Noble Park Revitalisation Committee are having a look at how we might fund a memorial at that site, and I'll provide further update to Council in the new year.
Thank you, Ms Weatherall. Councillor Tan.
Thank you. My second question, this is regarding to the Black Spot program for the railway parade in Noble Park for the safety rail and line marking. So we've done the consultation, was completed in September. So I just want to find out through you, Mayor, through the relevant officer, what is the progress on this project?
Thank you, Councillor Tan. We'll ask Mr Przodski to respond, please.
Thank you, Councillor Tan. Through the Mayor, this was a question that also came up in the public. Yes, we've had some delays with obtaining the permits from the utility providers in the area, which will be impacting as part of the works, but we're hopeful we'll get those approvals very shortly and commence construction of those works in the first half of next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Przodski. Councillor Tan.
Thank you, Daniel. The other questions regarding to the Haddington Road, the roundabout. I know that we've been discussing about this with the Department of Transport. They reckon it's not, it's not a priority because there's no accident in the last 5 years, so we don't want anything to happen. Just in case, do we have any update on this project? So we're not going to do the traffic lights at first, but there's anything that we can do for example, pedestrian crossing? Can it be done by the end of this year? So I just want to find out what's the update from the Department of Transport. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Tan. We'll ask Ms Weatherall to respond.
Thank you, and thank you, Councillor Tan. And Mr Przodski might want to add to my comments, but I just wanted to make it clear, I sit on the Noble Park Revitalisation Committee, which gets significant priority in regards to government interest around these issues. And so we had the Department of Transport and Planning come along and present to us about this particular roundabout, because there's been a lot of concern raised by it. At the moment, the state is saying that it doesn't meet the level that would allow it to be upgraded, but they're currently investigating it for us. So they will be coming back to the Noble Park Revitalisation Committee about that. So I'll keep Council again updated about that as we learn more.
Thank you, Ms Weatherall. Councillor Tan.
Okay, this next question raised by resident, a concern about a van or car that's parked at the Harrow Box Reserve. It's been there for a couple of days now. Could the relevant officer, can you do some investigation if there are any, I think that's a concern about someone living in a van or car. So can we find out and then assist the resident, please?
Thank you, Councillor Tan. We'll ask Ms Gillies to respond, please.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Tan. Would you mind just emailing me through the specific details, and we'll certainly follow that up.
Thank you, will do.
Thank you.
Next question regarding to our soft plastic recycle. It's great news that residents using our soft plastic recycle, especially in Noble Park at the aquatic centre. Just recently, the bin filled up very quickly. So is that possible if you can place another bin at least, because the bin is not that big? Thank you.
Thank you,
The
Councillor.
orange bin.
Yep. Thank you, Councillor Tan. We'll ask Mr. Prochowski to respond, please.
Again, thank you, Councillor Tan, and through the Mayor, we'll certainly look into that issue for you. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all my questions. So I just want to mention about over the weekend. So we're meant to have our the lanterns event. So just due to the weather, the event has been cancelled. So there's a lot of resident concern that we know that we did a lot of advertising through social medias and all that as well. But for some reason, when we cancelled the events last minute, it just didn't get advertised through our social media. So can the relevant officer please advise why it did not happen? Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Tan. We'll ask Mr. Bosman to respond, please.
Madam Mayor, thank you. Through yourself, Councillor, I think you have the answers to the questions that you actually have asked. In fact, I need to put my glasses on, then I'll have them as well. It was planned for 5:30 to 9 p.m. on Saturday, and because of the weather at 3:30 p.m. it was decided to not proceed with the Lantern Festival. The speeches were scheduled for 6:45. Lee Talamas and yourself were the speakers for that evening. As I say, unfortunately, at around 3:30, because of inclement weather, it was decided to not proceed with it. It wasn't a very large festival. It wasn't run by our festival and events. It was more a promotion in the area than a festival. There were activities. We were looking at a stilt walker, a giant puppeteer, a giant interactive kaleidoscope, and a sausage sizzle, and a musician. Those were the activities then that we had to cancel. The lanterns made by the school children and the kinder children were exhibited as part of the major feature public art exhibition, and you would have seen those that were out. In fact, they were continued to be left out. I know that Lee Talamas, on his social media, he immediately put on his post that it was cancelled, and so did you, Councillor. You also put. At that late hour, we had a struggle getting hold of our social media administrator to put it on ours. So there was that hour and a half before or from when we took the decision to when the event was to commence. And we weren't able to put it on ours, but I know it went on yours and Lee Talamas's. Nonetheless, we had our manager, business development and investment on site. And he was there from 5 to 7:30, and in the time that he was there were 3 families that turned up. So it wasn't as though there was a groundswell of community attendance. They understood. There was a little bit of walking around, and they left. I think it's also the information that I have, and you can confirm that, is that the photo shoot opportunity that was to be part of that was rearranged for Sunday, and that both yourself and Lee Talamas, in fact, participated in the photo shoot. In fact, it must be because it's on Facebook, at Copus Park, and the lanterns are there, both the sculpture lanterns as well as the Kinder's lanterns. So that is the reason. It was the inclement weather. I think we've learned a couple of things from it. We've done a bit of a debrief, and one of the things is how do we get constant access to our own Facebook administrator. I mean, you were able to put it on your Facebook, Lee Talamas on his, and because of the hour, and I think maybe it's because of some of the more recent changes in terms of officers, new officers coming in, old going out, but we were unable to, in that 1.5 hour window, affect a change or introduce a statement on our Facebook. We will look at other ways of improving that situation, but hopefully the answer I've given you gives you some comfort that it wasn't simply abandoned and walked away from. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Bosman. Anything further from you, Councillor Tan?
Thank you, Mr. Bosman. Yeah, just for moving forward in the future, if you can put something up, even advertise through social media with council, we need to let the resident know, so community know, that'd be great. Yeah, so it's the last council meeting, so I just want to say thank you to all our staff, all directors, and our CEO for doing a great work for this year. I know we did a lot of we made our surplus for this year, and I just want to highlight what's happening in Noah Park, what's been completed. So our petition, which is what the major projects been completed last year. So I just want to highlight a few, which is the Noah Park Aquatic Centre, the Health and Wellbeing Gymnasium. So that's a 6.9 million. So that's been completed, was opened last year, and thanks to the Victorian government for their contribution, so 3.3 million. So we did open the Ross Reserve Sport Pavilion as well, which is 10.2 million. So in contribution from state government, 980,000. So it's the pavilions, a multi-purpose sporting pavilions, including change rooms, social space, which is a standard AFL compliance facility to serve the synthetic soccer pitch with 2 ovals. So it's a great news for the Noah Park junior football clubs. We've got Springwell City Soccer Club, the Football Federation, Victorian Reference, along with the Redling, and from the winter soccer, we do have the Sandown Lions Soccer Club as well. So I just want to say thanks for all of your great work in my ward through the CP, the CIP projects. We did have a new playground and shade at the Noah Park Reserve. So a new pocket park as well at the 2A Frank Street, Noah Park. We've got the new landscape at the Kennett Reserve, Noah Park, and a streetscape just completed along Leonard Avenue, Barclay Street, Noah Park. So which is the contribute of the Noah Park Revitalisation Board, again, 585,000. So council only put in 85,000 for that project. We've done a black spot program, which is contributed from the federal government, which is the black spot program on the Bloomfield Road, Noah Park. So that's to reduce some crashes and safety for our pedestrians. So, and we did the Noah Park Community Safety Forum as well. So thank you for all your work, guys. And I just want to say Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. I'll see you for next 2 weeks, and Happy New Year 2024. Thank you. That's all from me.
Thank you, Councillor Tan. Councillor Long.
These are some of the events that I've attended since my last formal meeting. 28th of November, I attended the DMPL Board Teams meeting. 29th of November, I attended the committee meeting and Christmas dinner of Road Safe South East at Frankston RSL. 30th of November, I attended the 7 Christmas industrial breakfast at Springvale Supper Room. 2nd of December, I attended the Melbourne Cup for Greyhounds at Sandown Greyhounds. 6th of December, I attended the official opening where I cut the ribbon at the new Herbert Street Pocket Park. Later that morning, I attended a meeting with the members of Dandenong Agricultural Society at Greaves Reserve. 9th of November, I attended the North Dandenong Cricket Club along with Julian Hill to see the improvements that they have made to their club rooms with the $10,000 grant from the federal government. As this is the last council meeting for 2023, I'd like to wish all our residents a very Merry Christmas and a happy and safe New Year. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Garrard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, before I start my report, I'd like to commence with an apology, with a public apology to Councillor Dark. It has been brought to my attention that I misrepresented Councillor Dark's position in relation to the notice of motion on Gaza at our last meeting. I unreservedly apologise and regret any miscommunication during my closing summary, where I wrongly stated that we heard from Councillor Dark that we should allow the Victorian Government to continue to purchase weapons to be delivered to the children of Gaza. That was incorrect. What Councillor Duck did say, and I paraphrase, and I'm happy for you to modify this, was something to the effect that it is appropriate that companies in the West, including Australia, Melbourne and in Dandenong South, supply Israel with weapons. Would that be a correct characterisation? Yeah. So I sincerely apologise for any distress that I may have caused, and it was not my intention to damage Councillor Dark's reputation, and I value the importance of maintaining a respectful and accurate discourse in my public responsibilities. As a follow-up regarding the sale of weapons from Australia to Israel, there is a current legal challenge which will, is successful, mean that we'll find out exactly what weapons we are providing to Israel and whether we are, in fact, in contravention of the Geneva Convention. So, moving on. It was fantastic to launch the big summer read at the Keysborough South Primary School. This is an annual reading challenge for primary school aged children presented by public libraries and the Dandenong Library. Thanks so much to Lauren and Anne, who did such a stellar job in organising that event. I would like to, as Councillor Mehmeti did, acknowledge the passing of the person who has lost their life following the Superior Drive fire, and my condolences to their loved ones. No one should go to work and not come home. And it is, as Councillor Mehmeti said, no one living around that area should also suffer the toxic effects of the industrial processes there. And whilst Mr Bosman said that over time the polluting industries will be eliminated, it is never acceptable for any industry to be releasing toxic fumes or emitting any toxic substances. So we need to actually get to a point where we have enough regulatory oversight of these businesses where they are not releasing toxic substances into the environment. So in that vein, we do have our EPA session this Saturday between 1 and 3. And so I do urge the people in that community to come and ask any questions they have in relation to the monitoring and the system around ensuring that the air and the environment around the area is clean. So my question for tonight is regarding, in the past 3 years, I've been raising serious child safety and traffic management concerns at the Keysborough Gardens Primary School. Despite my repeated requests to the Council's traffic management team for solutions, the issues persist. At a recent meeting at the school, the principal expressed her inability to continue to divert teacher resources to traffic management. She's currently, 3 teachers are having to leave the classrooms and ensure child safety before and after school. My question to the Council are, will the Council commit to deploying an adequate number of school crossing supervision officers proportionate to the student population to ensure their safety? And I'll ask my second one. How does the Council plan to address these child safety concerns comprehensively and effectively?
Thank you. If I could ask Mr Bosman to respond, please. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, thank you. Through yourself, Councillor, I'm well aware of the situation and of the meeting that took place. Let me advise that council crossing supervisors are co-funded by the Victorian Government and councils. They are only provided at locations which comply with warrants, which are set by the Victorian Government. This relates to the numbers of children and vehicles at the locations where children are crossing. It is not proportionate to the student population at the school. And the number of crossing supervisors that are at the school, at Keysborough South Primary School, do meet the warrants. But that's in terms of the warrants. The Victorian Government are reviewing their warrants for school crossing supervisor provision, which we anticipate may enable supervisors at a broader range of locations due to a more comprehensive risk-based approach. However, this review has not been completed yet. Secondly, council officers have invested many hours into enforcing, reviewing and monitoring road safety around Keysborough Gardens Primary School. As part of the extensive work undertaken over many years, Council has a strong and contemporary evidence base and data with which it can take and does make informed decisions within strong legislative requirements, restrictions and frameworks. A number of engineering measures have been considered and ruled out by road safety experts, such as one-way systems which would not increase the amount of available parking and would compromise road safety through higher vehicle speeds and increase the volumes of vehicles making less safe manoeuvres elsewhere on the road network. Other measures, such as altering parking restrictions and the amount of short-term parking available, have been trialled on several occasions. In particular, the length of the pick-up and drop-off zone has been altered on several occasions following discussions with staff at the school. Parking restrictions have also been altered on Abercrombie Avenue to encourage parents to park in safe locations. Numerous workshops and promotional activities to encourage walking and cycling have been facilitated by Council at the school, and we are currently working through the design of the path through Melbourne Water Reserve near the school, and we appreciate the information that the school have provided to assist with this and are certainly aiming for an outcome which will benefit them significantly. The ultimate arrangement is dependent on Melbourne Water. Improved pedestrian networks are anticipated to lead to safety improvements and should also lead to a high proportion of children using active modes of transport to get to, and walking is a mode of transport to the school. As the school expands its enrolment, congestion at school pickup and drop-off times is likely to be present, as at most schools. As with our assessment of safety around all schools, we focus extremely heavily on safety for children, and decisions around changes at such locations are only made by road safety experts. We prioritise measures which address matters such as vehicle speeds and visibility of crossing points, which can result in some compromise with regard to congestion. We appreciate this can be frustrating for some parents and nearby residents. However, safety is our priority, and we will continue to monitor road safety at this location and implement a range of engineering, educational and enforcement measures when we are able to do so. Any stakeholders with suggestions they believe Council may not have considered at this location would be more than welcome, and they would be more than welcome to contact us directly at roadsafety@cgd.vic.gov.au. And one of the comments that has also been made to me is that the parents are frustrated that it takes a long time to drop their kids off at school or to pick them up at school. And I think, and that comment was made on the Friday meeting, the issue of the amount of time that it takes is not a safety issue. I've focused purely on safety issues, the warrants of safety issues, the criteria for measuring safety. And the traffic engineers within this council have got a strong database. In council, you can sit there and shake your head as much as you like.
Because it's not correct. Please
Councillor, I have traffic engineers that are far more qualified than you are. And they do not have the, they have the data that backs up the measures and the designs that are in place outside the school. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Bosman. And I'll ask you, Councillor Garrard, just to be respectful, and we're not going into a debate. So if you have a follow-up question, that's fine. But we're not going into a debate, please. Thank you.
So if we're not going into a debate, how is it that comparable schools, which actually have less students and have less entry points, have more supervision officers, up to 3, how is it that this school has only 1 and that officer is only allowed to supervise Chapel Road, which is the least, carries the least entry traffic, and no supervision of Holmesley Road, no supervision of where 70% of the children enter the school, which is from Abercrombie Avenue. So how is it, if that warrant is met, other schools have multiple supervision officers, and this school apparently meets the warrant? I have further questions.
Thank you, Councillor Garrard. Ms. Weatherall.
Thanks, Councillor Garrard. Look, as I outlined to you today, I said I would meet with the officers and review your concerns and come back to you. So I think that's probably the best thing. And then
further
follow it up
question,
from there.
though, is why is it, if the council has all the safety data, were they not aware of the number of near misses and incidents that the principal of the school informed the officer about, and the officer had no knowledge? And yet the officer went on to say that there were no safety issues, despite all of the data the principal was showing to them. There are multiple safety issues. How is it that the council doesn't have that data? And how is it you can say that it is safe when you are not in possession of all of the data?
Mr Bosman, you don't need to respond if you wish not to. Ms Weatherall did make it quite clear that we are going to investigate this issue and this matter and have a conversation outside of these chambers. Councillor Garrard, I will ask you once again to be respectful, and the fact that we're not going into a debate. I and Ms Weatherall have both told you that we are going to have this conversation with the officers outside of these chambers, so could you please move on with your questions?
So if the council officer doesn't have to respond, then it needs to go on record that the information you presented is incorrect.
We are going to have further conversations about that. Do you have any other further questions? No. Councillor Milkovich.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll start off with a couple of questions. Could I please get an update from the relevant officer regarding a delivery of the New Year Council calendars? Are we on track? Going good? Bad? Is anything happening? Have any been delivered or not? Or when
Thank you, Councillor Milkovich. We'll ask Ms Hanson to respond, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So, Councillor Milkovich, I believe that I updated councillors last week that the calendar was distributed the week prior, so nearly 2 weeks ago. Walkers are out delivering that calendar. So those should be hitting doors, or have already, I believe.
Thanks, Ms Hanson.
Yeah, thank you, Ms Hanson. Thank you, Mayor. I'm just querying because I haven't, in my line of work, I do see a lot of properties. I haven't seen any as yet myself, so I was just wondering, are we on track or not? But that's fine, we'll let it be like that. Could we have council officers please look at the parking markings that actually mark up the bays with little dots on Lonsdale Street, particularly in front of this area here, and also where the Chemist Warehouse, there's no lines painted in the actual parking bays, but there's those dots that actually direct. Quite a few of them have actually gone disappeared over time. You know, they were sort of ripped off. So it becomes quite hard to actually see, if you're not familiar, which way to park. Is it 45? I mean, it does say 45 degrees, but a lot of people get confused and they park 90 degrees or whatever. So if we please maybe just have a look at that and maybe reinstate a few just to show people which way to park. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Milkovich. Mr Przodski, did you want to respond?
Absolutely, yeah. We can definitely look into that and see if any of those little, what we call raise reflective markers have disappeared. They can pop off. So, yeah, we'll have a look at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Przodski. Could I also please ask council officers to look at a rubbish issue again? I know we always got rubbish issues. It's basically between, I think, number 10 Stud Road and number 32 Stud Road. I know the Mayor Formosa is quite familiar with that location, and I've driven past last couple of weeks on a number of occasions, and the rubbish keeps popping up, getting taken, popping up, and it's because the nature strip is actually quite narrow. It's only about 2 feet wide. It does overspill onto the road, and then cars come along, they hit the box, and stuff just flies everywhere. So you can please maybe get a hotspot crew or do something about it before there's an accident or collision there. I know that you're very passionate about that issue as well. And it's just getting, I think, close to Christmas. People are, I don't know, dumping rubbish for some reason. So if we can have that, thank you. Now, excuse me while I juggle my glasses. I'm not used to them, so I can't.
I'll just quickly respond to that, if you don't mind, Councillor Milkovich. I did drive past this morning and noticed that our crew did collect that rubbish that was there, but that area is definitely a hotspot and notorious. And you would have also noticed that there was a sign saying that cameras will be here very, very soon. And I think that added to that is the construction that's occurring across the road as well, so that's making it even more dangerous. But I'm pretty sure that the crew is on top of this hotspot area.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, no, it is good to see. I haven't driven past this morning, so I can't comment, but last week I know it was there. So could I also get an update, please, regarding the email that I think I've sent to Mr Przodski regarding the parking restrictions and parking arrangement in front of number 29 and 21 Mills Road in Dandenong? If you recall, there was an issue where the parked trucks were actually blocking part of the driveway and the gate. Was there any update? Is there any further movement on organising that parking restriction there?
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Milkovich. Mr. Brzotsky, it was a question that Councillor Milkovich asked a few meetings ago. Was that being responded to?
I'll have to get back to you, sir. I probably wasn't involved in that meeting, and I don't recall that question. So I'll chase it up and we'll get back to you. But it could be a simple fix.
Okay. I think Mr. Bosman may have a response. So if you wouldn't mind, Mr. Bosman.
Yeah, I'll take ownership of that. I spoke with Councillor Milkovich, and it was going to be a discussion between officers from the engineering side in terms of the placement of parking restrictions and parking enforcement. I'll follow up to see where we are with regard to that, Councillor, and come back to you. I'll get the feedback from both teams of officers and see where we're at.
Thank you, Mr. Bosman. Thanks for clarifying.
Thank you, Mr. Bosman. Thank you, Mayor. Could I also have an officers look at somehow solving the issue, which I have emailed quite a few times, and I know our parking officers have been pretty diligent in trying to enforce it, regarding the no standing zone right next to the Brady Road shops on Victor Avenue. I believe I've sent a few emails to Mr. Mullen with the photos of how congested it can be when cars are parked illegally as you turn from Brady Road into Victor Avenue next to the shops. My apologies, I'm directing the wrong person. I have emailed Mr. Mullen a few times with the photos from the residents who are actually complaining about this, where it should be really no parking so the cars can actually go past each other, but when they do park illegally and they park for quite a number of hours, it becomes really difficult to actually get into Victor Avenue. It actually becomes hard to turn from Brady Road. So if we can maybe look at some sort of enforcement, I don't know, education, anything at all that's going to help the residents survive probably peak hour traffic or whatever, or school pickups, drop-offs. There's no school there, but the shops are quite well frequented in those hours in the afternoon and early in the morning, so that'll be much appreciated.
Thank you, Councillor Milkovich. Ms Gillies, if you wouldn't mind responding.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Milkovich. I'll absolutely follow up with Mr. Mullins tomorrow.
Thank you, Ms Gillies. Now, events that I've attended, I'll mention the one that I attended both with Councillor Long and former Councillor Eden Foster, now newest Member of Parliament for the seat of Mulgrave, which was the Sandown Greyhounds Racing Club Melbourne Cup Day. Great night. It was a great evening. Fun music. The hula hoop lady was pretty funny. That was good. Fantastic food, and I think we would won a couple of dollars for some charities. So great evening altogether. Now, on a more serious matter regarding children's safety, I'd like to make a special mention. It's the last council meeting of the year, and I would like to congratulate and also wish all the best in her retirement school crossing supervisor at Rosewood Downs Primary School, Elaine Farmer, for her 16 years of service. Elaine has actually seen all my children start Rosewood Downs Primary School, and with my youngest one finishing this year when she's retiring at the end of the year, she's finishing off. She has seen them safely cross the road numerous times. Her diligence and her work ethic are second to none. So I would like to thank officially Elaine Farmer, and I would also like to ask if the Mayor could write a letter of thanks to Elaine for her 16 years of service. She's retiring to spend a bit more time with her family and her great children. She has done a fantastic job. She has great thanks of all our Rosewood Downs and Dandenong North community. I'm sure the parents are very grateful. I am very grateful for her diligence. So I'd like to wish her all the best in retirement. And since the last council meeting, I'd like to wish all the councillors and all the officers Merry Christmas. We will see each other one more time, I think, but very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Milkovich. We can certainly arrange that letter, so thank you. Councillor Dark.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, I suppose I'll start off with questions since it's the name of the game tonight. My first question is to the relevant officer. I've had a couple of businesses reach out to me on Lodges Boulevard between Derby Way and Bazalgette Crescent. There's the ground slopes towards the wetlands that are in the middle of the Lodges estate. The road has progressively washed away, I suppose. There was originally some, I believe it's called crocodile cracking. Now that's washed away and it's holding a significant amount of water. There's been people swerving, basically getting to the point of crossing the lines onto the other side of the road. If we could please have a look at what options there are. I think it's been repaired a few times. I've raised it in the past, but it's still holding a lot of water there. It's just, I think, naturally the concave of the road. If we could please have a look.
Thank you, Councillor Dark. Mr. Brzotsky, did you hear where that was?
No, I didn't.
No,
Thank
you did. I don't think so. Would you mind sending that
Yep.
across to Mr. Pushotsky, please?
Easy.
Councillor Dark, thank you.
Thank you. My next question to the relevant officer. At the Walker Reserve at the playground, a temporary fence was put up in a segment of the playground where it's been fenced off for quite some time. The grass has grown quite high through that. It's been there for so long. I just want to find out, one, what works were being done, and two, how long it's going to take for the fence to come down again.
Thank you, Councillor Dark. Mr. Pushotsky?
Yeah, most certainly we can look into that. Sorry, I don't have an answer for you because I'm not aware of it, but we'll get back to you. Thank you.
Maybe add that to the email, Councillor Dark.
Yep, I'll put an E next to that for email. My third question to the relevant officer: the corner of Darren Road and Kamura Road, there is a block of land which was originally earmarked. It's owned by the DFFH, I think it is, or one of the two. It has been earmarked as a Chinese aged care facility, and for quite some time there have been rumours that was not going to progress, and I believe in the end it was cancelled, it wasn't going to progress. I had at an event I was at a couple of weeks ago, somebody from the Vietnamese community, I did mention this past as well, about this land and whether there is the potential of council, I suppose, finding out what the update is with it. There's quite a large Vietnamese community and they don't have a Vietnamese aged care facility, and they've been looking for some land to acquire one through a group that actually is a large non-for-profit group that is actually based in Springvale as well as Melbourne and other areas as well. If we could please find out from DFFH or the relevant department what the go is with that corner block.
Thank you, Councillor Dark. We'll get Mr. Bosman to respond if you wouldn't mind, please.
Madam Mayor, thank you through yourself. Councillor, I know exactly which piece of land you're talking about. Let's find out, whether there are any plans still to go ahead, whether it's gone idle. We'll follow up with state government as well. They were involved in that, and get back to you as soon as we have an answer.
Thank you, Mr. Bosman.
My next question to the relevant officers, and this is one that was only put to me late this afternoon. 51 Robinson Street, on the corner of Rod Street and Robinson Street, there is a old office. It was the old office of Vincent Associates and Morgan Watson Young. It was raised with me today that one of the accountants who was talking to a couple of tradespeople at the front, that I believe the state government has leased this facility through an entity, and is basically looking at either some sort of medical fit out where apparently they're going to be having a sober centre or an injecting facility or something like that. And there's been some questions that were put to me late this afternoon. It's also come through the family court as well, through one of my contacts there, that this site apparently has been earmarked as a sobering centre or something like that. If we could please make some urgent inquiries as to what is a go, if that is in fact the case, and what this facility is.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Dark. Ms. Gillies, if you wouldn't mind responding, please.
Sorry, yes. Through you, Madam Mayor. We've certainly been keeping an eye on the government's progression in terms of the sobering up centres, and it's certainly new information to me. It is to Mr. Bosman as well. So appreciate any insights, and we certainly will follow that up.
Thanks, Ms. Gillies. Councillor Dark.
Thank you, Mayor. May I just have one quick thank you, actually, from the Vietnamese Evangelical Church in Olympic Avenue in Springvale. They had applied for a busker's permit to sing Christmas carols last weekend and this Saturday coming, and they, through the permit that came through, there was a question about the use of an electronic amplifier, and they were having, I believe, in excess of 80 or 90 people in Springvale singing Christmas carols. And at the very late in the piece, I got an email from the president or the senior pastor of the church as well, to do with the fact that they just wanted to know whether they could use the electric megaphone to be able to guide the carolers as well. And very quickly as well, a special thank you to Ms. Gillies and her directorate as well. The very quick stealth turnaround of the permit, having it amended so that they were actually able to head out on Saturday in the rain, and they did turn out in a good number. And they will be there again this Saturday. He did remind me to inform everyone, between 11 a.m. and 12 noon at Multicultural Square, they'll be singing Christmas carols, and they'd like people to come down and have a look. So if you're in the area, please go down. But yeah, once again, please thank you very much for the assistance with that. And finally, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everybody with council, all the council staff, everybody watching via live stream in our residence. I hope you all have a fantastic Merry Christmas, good Christmas break, and get ready for the new year.
Thank you, Councillor Dark. I've obviously attended many events over the last couple of weeks, particularly this time of year, but I will table all of the events and places that I have attended in the minutes. But I did want to make special note of the Monash Children's Hospital fundraiser that Deputy Mayor Councillor Lim hosted previous Saturday, which was just absolutely incredible. I know all of the work that you do for the Monash Children's Hospital is just unwavering, and all of the work and the support and your generosity is just really heartfelt by not only me, who has unfortunately had to use the services of the Monash Children's Hospital, but everyone who does use that hospital and its facilities, and raising over $110,000 for the Children's Cancer Ward is just absolutely phenomenal. So I really wanted to make mention of that. Thank you so much, Deputy Mayor, Councillor Lim. Really, really amazing, and it was such an honour to be a part of that event. And I too would like to wish everyone a really, really happy, merry, festive season and safe holidays. I also wanted to make note that our fatalities in this country at this stage are ridiculously high compared to this time last year. It's probably one of the worst years in decades. So I really wanted people to pay particular attention on the roads this holiday season. Obviously, road safety is something that I'm deeply passionate about, but really astonished that these fatalities are still occurring at such high numbers. So really wanted to make sure that everybody's safe on the roads this festive season. And a special Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to all of my colleagues, all of the directors, the staff at City of Greater Dandenong, and of course all of our residents. Thank you. Ms Weatherall, any questions that needed to be taken on notice at the last council meeting, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor, there were two, and they'll be attached to the minutes.
Thank you very much. Item 7, urgent business. As there is no urgent business, item 8, close of business at 9:06 p.m. and that's the final one for the year. See everybody next year. Thank you. Good night.